to the live show here on the Mad Love, your life show on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If you missed the live version today over on Bold Brave TV, just know it was a good show, y'all. Go catch it, go download it, like it. I want to hear your comments. Let me know what you think because we're talking about some of the best supplements on the planet, ones that will literally change your life. And with that, I want to introduce you to Barton Scott. He's a biochemist, behavioral nutritionist, NLP practitioner, and founder of Upgraded Formulas. And he is just a remarkable human being at that. And Barton, we obviously talked about products, we talked about all of the things around Upgraded, but I want to take time in this episode to deep dive into all the other fun ways that we've played through life together. And one of the things we touched on briefly was around alcohol and plant medicine. And I love what you said on the live show because you mentioned that, hey, like my drinking has changed drastically since I actually went and sat with plant medicine. And I found that I had the same effect. The same effect happened for me. I was actually a little bit more vegetarian initially after my very first ceremony, just because I'd been eating so cleanly and didn't eat
Mhm.
a lot of like red meat because they recommend usually you don't do that. And I remember that I probably went for another 2 months before I started integrating meat back into my diet just because I felt that's what I felt called to. But
Mhm.
more than that, it was definitely, I felt this huge vibration shift from like alcohol is a very social thing to like I'm just not feeling it at all. And I've noticed that each year that goes by, as I continue to sit in ceremony, it just gets lesser and less and less and less to where I'm hardly having it at all. Like friends will have a celebration and I'll do, a little cheers.
Yeah.
But I'm just not that interested. I'm just not like I don't look at alcohol and think to myself, oh, that'll be fun. Like
Oh,
there's nothing about it that tempts me or even makes me get overly excited. So I'm curious to know what your
I
experience
was,
is because I
I
I love
was,
that reflection.
yeah, I was going to be a sommelier on the side at one point in my late 20s because I had two friends when I was living in Houston then, which is very much a food city and very much a booze city.
Yeah.
And and so, wow, I mean, I was drinking a lot of wine and under the guise of learning about wine. And so my friend Sebastian, who was one of the top Psalms, he would say, "Hey, come, have a glass of wine." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm really long day, I'm fine." "Oh, come have a glass of," and then two bottles later, he said, "We have friends joining," and it's like it's a Wednesday night or something, and that was before I started my health company. Because soon thereafter, I sat with Aya. I started meditating using transcendental meditation. I was already meditating for a couple years, but it took a whole nother level. Um, Took it to a new level, and what I realized is as I started to get healthier and healthier, I didn't need it for that burst of energy. To you can people say, right? It's like, I don't know how you're here and you're not drinking. You're on the dance floor. You're one of the last people on the dance floor,
Yeah.
and you're not drinking. And it's like, well, when you have enough energy, you don't have to lean on it. But there, I can totally understand the times when I wouldn't have gone out, or I wouldn't have stayed out past 10 or so if I hadn't been drinking, right? And the
Mm.
problem too, didn't mention this earlier, but with alcohol, what I've learned in sleep data from myself and other people is if you drink beyond, timing matters. So if you drink beyond 8 p.m., your your ability, Chinese medicine talks about the liver and the processing cycles of the liver and the phases of the cycles throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it seems like the liver doesn't process alcohol very well after 8 p.m. So if you're
Mm.
drinking and you have a happy hour drink, that's totally different than having an 11 p.m. drink or beyond that drink.
Ah.
And certainly a midnight 1 a.m. you're out super late. All of that's going to be vastly different than a 5 p.m. And you're probably having it with food at that point versus an
Right.
empty stomach, which is also different. And
Yeah.
but timing really, really matters, and the ability for it to disrupt your sleep is going to be just vast, vast.
Mm.
So when you don't need when you have plenty of energy, though, it becomes a lot less interesting. And when your blood sugar is naturally very stable, that's also a sign that you're not going, because alcohol has a lot of sugar in it typically. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it has salt. So like that salty margarita, what I've realized, here's a great hack for people. And then we could talk about all the nutrition stuff if you guys missed the live. Um, what we do, my now fiance and I, we just travel around and we will, in whatever language we're in, wherever we are in the world, either I or she will order for us, or and usually anyone that's with us will want this too: sparkling water, salt rim, and juice of lemon, jugo de limon, and or
Mm.
lime, right? And that combo, that salty, sort of bitter, sour, that sour is missing in our diets. Ayurveda is big on sour things for bioflow, digestive function. We
Yeah.
don't really have that in American diet, and so that's really helpful. And that salt and hydration, suddenly you have energy and your mood's different, and you're not moody because you're low energy. Like so much of life just gets better just from that.
Yes.
And so I would say have that first, and then if you still think you want to drink after that, because maybe you just want the margarita for the salt, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are there, because most people that are eating a good diet. The other thing I found, Mary, is through the hair testing that we do with upgraded formulas, and you guys can check that out. That's the website, upgradedformulas.com. That they just are not able to get enough good quality salt in their diet, because even with their salting their food, they need to be salting their water typically. Again,
Yeah.
individual results vary, and that's why testing is a thing, and that's why we trademark this phrase "test on guess,"
Yes.
to go along with the great supplements that we have that are have super superior absorption to just about anything out there. You still have to test. You still need to know how much, how often of these things, what's the ratio, for how long. Then you need to retest, and all of that just becomes easier and easier as you get healthier and healthier.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so good. That's so good. Definitely still, huh? I think I grew up in the era where salt was like, don't get so much sodium, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I over understood that to be like, let me just not do any salt. And then it ended up being a little to my detriment. And so it's
yeah,
nice to know, like, now, like, I hydrate with an electrolyte in the morning. I put salt in my water, good quality salt at that, not not table salt for anyone listening. If you're like, oh, just let me throw some Morton's in there, like, no, don't,
yeah.
please don't throw Morton's in your
No,
water.
because that literally has aluminum anti-caking agent, i.e.,
Oh,
aluminum, which is a heavy metal,
yes, yes, which is a heavy
which
metal. That's
causes
right.
is linked to dementia and
Oh.
Alzheimer's, and yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I have a new hack where I put chia seeds in my water. So I do chia water, but when I do
mm,
the salt
mm,
water actually soaks up in the chia seeds. So I feel like it's also sitting in my system just a little bit longer. So
wow,
I like
that's
the kind of like double dose of that. And my friend, I am known amongst my friends as don't ask Mary for her water. Don't ask her to share her water because when you drink it, it's going to be like salty or
salty.
mineralized. And they're always just
Yeah,
like, oh God, what's in your water? I was like, look, I tried to warn you. There's nothing but good stuff in my water, but
right.
we're gonna share. You got to know what you're getting.
Totally. Wow. That's
Oh, so Barton, I know you're a big biohacker. It's one of the things I love about you, because I am as well, and it's a lot of fun. But give me some of the, tried and true, uh, you know, extra health benefits of some things that you would say are probably alternative to most of the world, right? Like
mm,
I've never walked into my doctor's office and she's hasn't looked at me and said, Mary, I think some red light therapy would be great for you today. Like she's
uh,
never ever said that to me, but I know how
well,
good I feel after a little red light therapy. So,
in
oh,
the name of that,
speaking exactly.
I'll put this
Thank
guy
you.
on for
Thank you. I
the
feel like
remainder.
you're honoring
Just
the vibe
just to
right
catch
now.
people's attention, and this is not my Halloween costume. Not um,
Yes.
but so that's a great question. I love that question. I would say sunlight breaks over food
Mm,
and coffee breaks. Sunlight breaks, and
mm,
as much skin as
yes.
possible.
Yeah.
Basically, you're really really lucky if you have a place where you can be pretty much clothing optional or as close to that as possible. Because hello, evolution, that's how we evolved, folks. Like it, don't like it.
Yeah.
Easy, find it easy, not easy. But at the very least, Ladies, sports bra. Guys, take your shirts off. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever, won't get you, I guess, fined or arrested or something. I don't know. Um, but you'll see me, like, I'll be in a major city anywhere in the world, and if the sun is out and I haven't got sun, I'm walking around with my shirt off and I'm
Hmm.
holding my shirt, and I'm totally, completely not at all aware of what someone could think or say or whatever. Of course, I put it on to go inside any sort of establishment, but we have to get beyond other people's opinion of us as a way to be healthy. That's one of the things that I really want to touch on here in regards to that question, is that if your opinion of other people, uh, if you're allowing that to come between, if you have the knowledge, like now you do, if you just heard that, and you don't like the way you look, either change that, improve that, or on the way to that, I would suggest that you just loosen up a little bit and realize that, hey, I'm here. One thought, to speak to this, I realized when I was traveling in Brazil a couple years ago, I'd never been out of the country for that long. It was coming up to 2 months, and I was actually about to fly home to Austin to run an event that you were helping me with, actually. And I was having a great time. I would not have come back if it was not for our event for a while longer. And I was getting a lot of sun. I was walking to the beach, and literally, like, in Brazil, you're like there in your underwear. Like, I was like literally had a pair of underwear. I was like, wow, I'm
Nice.
overdressed here compared to
Nice.
most of the guys. And I got a lot of grounding right from the sand every single day. So,
Yeah.
one thing that is, we talked a lot about mineral deficiency, and that's the core area that, I would say few people in the world today have a better grasp of mineral deficiency than not only me but the rest of my team, all of our nutritionists, and the network effect of that. So if you are sensitive to EMF, or you find it difficult to, when there's a lot of Wi-Fi, to struggle or sleep, which we are all affected by that. By the way, that
Mm.
does change the chemistry. There's, studies showing that 5G causes a leaky brain, in fact.
Mm.
So having 5G turn off your cellular, be on just Wi-Fi whenever possible. Things
Mm.
like that. I do that 10 times a day, probably, or more, depending
Oh,
on
wow.
where I am, on and off throughout the day. I'm grounding, I'm getting sun. I'm watching the sunset if possible. I'm watching the sunrise if possible. Just
Mm.
that little blip that syncs up, that actually sort of inoculates you against the blue light by
I
doing
love it.
all of that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I do blue light glasses. Obviously, I like the red light. And for sure, I do the Wi Fi off piece. That's
Yeah.
really important. And I have an EMF harmonizer in my house. So
Yeah.
that is
Same.
a beautiful, beautiful gift
Mm.
to help combat the stuff we don't see
Mm-hmm.
in the air. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me some other like what's a biohack that you think has like changed your life? Like what was one you
Mm.
did and you were like, "Oh man, like this is forever."
Wow. Um, the first thought I thought was meditation and ayahuasca, and
Mm,
so I don't know if that's just habit change or bio, or
yeah.
certainly both change your bio.
Yeah.
Having breath work, having control over the nervous system is huge,
Yeah.
because it's going to determine if you're very emotional often. Look, I mean, we're all human, but is it your normal, or is your normal that you're very, in control of your executive function? And so that's a big part of it. I've done brain retraining that's helped a lot. A place called Supermind here in Miami that's been really
I've
great.
watched your stories. I think I've caught a few of those.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I'm a fan. I worked with a neuroscientist last year, and it was amazing to
yeah,
be able to like have someone map my brain and then tell me about my brain activity and see the difference. What I loved is I was in a room with friends who were marketers,
mm,
and it was fascinating to see like they all had very similar brains in terms of like which parts like they were
mm,
like a little more anxious and stuff, whereas my brain was like super like relaxed. And I was like,
yep,
oh, this is so funny to see how we all and then I
mm,
remember the neuroscientist. He goes, "Mary, your brain looks just pretty much like an engineer's brain. And I was like, thanks. That's probably pretty much how it works most of the time.
That's great. That
But
is.
yeah, you just get so many insights, right? Of like what's working, what's
Mm,
normal, what's your normal. I think that's what's important for
mm,
anyone listening to understand is like you should know your normal. Yes, we
mm,
always want to have some metrics that help us compare to maybe like healthy people, right? And I think
yeah.
going to what you said on the live show earlier on Bold Brave, we were talking a little bit about like the difference between like hair mineral testing and blood testing and
Mm,
um what's your blood is you on your best behavior versus
yeah.
hair being something that you're seeing like what's actually been happening over time. And I
Right.
think that that's really important because you're right. I've even when I had breast cancer, I remember I was getting blood work done regularly then,
Mm,
and nobody mentioned that there was any signs of cancer in my body. If I hadn't found the lump,
yeah.
I would not have known, and neither would my doctor.
That's
And that
wild.
was a little creepy. I was like,
Yeah.
"You're telling me there isn't a way?" They're like, "Well, there's some things we can after the fact, like once they know you have cancer, then there's other things they
Yeah.
start to look for." But I'm like, "You don't do this up front." And they're like, "No."
The
And that was a little jarring, but also it made me go, "Oh, then how can I go compare myself with other healthy people? And who's the person that's going to show me how to do that?" So getting a functional doctor who it has a pool of healthy people that they work with, that's who I want to be compared with. I want to be compared with a pool of healthy people, not the average population, because I've looked at the average population. We're not looking so good right
Not
now.
great. So
Yeah.
that's a great point. So far and away, I didn't want to straight away plug our my all of what we do, but I'd be remiss not to, frankly,
Yeah.
because the biggest things have from a health standpoint have been. So I'll say it like this: if I did breath work and um, I didn't have the minerals that we have, the technology that we have to absorb things, I'd be a mess. If I didn't absorb the magnesium like I do, I took like 9 capsules. I had a hard workout yesterday, and sauna, all these different things,
Yeah.
long work day. In addition to that, uh, I mean, I would have been a mess. I was having micro foot cramps as it is, so I took more, and they went away. And I would have had, if not, I would have had a cramp that was so severe it would have woke me up, in the middle of the night. And that, even as it was, I was having sort of restless legs, right?
Hmm.
That can also be because your iron is high. So I give blood off, and but if it wasn't for our hair test, and we have our own hair test now that ships to just about all the countries out there, and if it wasn't for that test, I would have not known what to fix, and I got very lucky. I was looking for my own fix for my own health and for my mother's health around 22, and so you know what I learned with that test that I never saw, and I had a friend at the time that was going through cancer early in her life, like 30 or so, and
Hmm.
she had found this hair test, and I was like, oh, okay, let me go look in that, and it sort of felt, it's like, whoa, really, like hair, and that became the study. I didn't know it then, but that would become the study and the foundation of what we do, and the guidebook, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
if things are off, your hair will show it. If you're
Right.
chronically inflamed, you'll be able to understand because you'll see the thyroid's not working. You'll see that the adrenals are bottomed out. You'll see all these other functions. Like you'll get insight into your hormones. You'll see your iron to copper ratio be off. You'll see your metabolism ratio be off. You'll you'll be able to understand different common symptoms through that, and then from there we can use supplements that are going to absorb without digestion to reverse those deficiencies once identified. So that's huge, and without that, and that's the basis of the book that I'm writing about how nutrition becomes personality.
Hmm.
And so it's with the editor right now, and hopefully out in the next 12 months or so, because people need this. And I can
Yeah.
tell you, so many people, even in health, that study health as a job, have a very low understanding of what we're talking about, with the different elements that make up all of us. So I've
Yeah.
got red light on right now, but the red light doesn't go nearly as far when you have deficiencies. The breath work, you don't
Hmm.
get to that place as easily because your muscles cramp up because you've been taking in all this oxygen and
Yeah.
using up more magnesium as a result. And then you get they have a name for it, but when your hands tighten up, right? And that you can't sort of
Mm.
let go.
Yeah.
That's all deficiency related.
Mm.
In fact, really every symptom that you can ever imagine is a mineral deficiency and a heavy metal, possibly a heavy metal toxicity as well, which is something we test for. So
Yeah.
that is the basis. I just wanted to say some free hacks up front before that, but what we do is so affordable. I mean, for less than $300, you can get insight to this with a consultation, and you can just go on the website and buy it. You're not behind
Yeah.
a gatekeeper that goes, "Hey, come see me, pay me hundreds of dollars, and then we'll talk about your test. Then we'll pay
Right.
hundreds of more dollars and more time and wait weeks, and we'll talk about your results. Only then will we then mail supplements to your house, most likely, and that's going to take a week also." And so you're like, you're 6 weeks into something from the
Right.
start, and that's when you're in a tough spot already. That's not a good place to be. So
Yeah.
I wanted to really sort of, I don't know, make that more available,
Yeah.
democratize it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
You
a
have
big
you
push
have a
for it.
really high value of helping people first.
Yeah,
And I really love that. And I feel like your, upgraded formulas really is a company that stands by that. And it's just
yeah,
beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I think if our poor healthcare system, I mean,
yeah,
it's better than some,
right,
and also for us being in such a free country, like we can do better.
yeah,
Like we can do better. We can raise the standard. We can do better. We can put more nutrition training in for our doctors. We can also introduce them to Eastern medicine that we know works. There's so many other beautiful things that can show up if if we're willing to think outside the box and to stop doing what we've always done so that we can get further than we've ever gotten.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So
got
Bart,
some advice, or
yes,
I read something
yes.
recently, finance wise, and that was that, don't do what most people are doing, because most people are in debt. Most people are broke. Most people never really gain financial literacy. They're following the herd also, and they
Right.
might be a good storyteller and very opinionated, and now you're doing what they're doing. Same
Right.
thing with health. There's so many people out there on medication. That's not normal, and that is not the right path. And
Yeah.
as a friend of mine that was a doctor said, he said, I realized, and it was heartbreaking, through I invested all this time, and I realized that I was never going to get someone well, and that medication was never going to get someone well.
Mm.
And I've seen that be true again and again. So we help people get off of medication over time, right? Off of sleep medication, off of thyroid medication,
Mm. So
anxiety
good.
medication, all these things. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love
more
that.
options
Breaking free.
equals a better life, period,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yes. Yes. More holistic options at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
Yes.
holistic option. I think that people want to be able to favor and love, and something that's not so hard on the body, because
Yeah.
so many things are really, especially in pharma, that can be really, really hard on the body.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit here, Barton, because
Mhm.
I want to talk about a subject that all of my listeners really love to talk about. And we always talk about relationships on the show.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what is it that you know now about
Mhm.
relationships that you wish you had known before you ever started dating? Because you have a beautiful fiance. I love her dearly. She
Mhm.
is beautiful inside and out. And I think she is such a good match for you. I feel like I know you really well, and I think she's a really
Yeah.
good match for
You
you.
you
Um,
do, and I think you're right. Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, it was hard one. Hard. Yeah. Had a lot of, I think, in the path. So that's a great question. I have to buy some time and just say that there's a lot of unwinding that happens,
Mm,
and the becoming ourselves seems to be such a spiritual path, and it is
mm,
probably 25% finding yourself, and 75% becoming, um, and following that golden thread, and doing the things that other people would shy away from, and or procrastinate on.
mm,
And so I would say, oh, well, certainly advice would be, from experience, the things I've learned is that any hard relationship or breakup, there should be a absolute diamond field full of richness of things you can learn from, and things
yes.
that you can improve. And
Mm,
the best advice I think I got that was so simple was, be worthy of a worthy mate, and that was from Naval
mm,
Ravikant. and that was
Mm.
years ago, and that was a guiding philosophy.
Yeah.
And it was because of that that I thought, okay, well, the right path is leaning into the difficult things that most people wouldn't do. Because if you want an exceptional spouse and you're not exceptional, it's not going to work,
That's right.
and not for long, at least. And
That's right.
so you have to polish the diamond, right?
Yep.
I think we're all, you know, diamond fractals of a diamond,
Yeah.
of the same also. And you often meet a mirror image of yourself to some extent, right?
Mm.
And so that's one thing that I've learned is that the issues that you're having with someone else point to the things that haven't been healed in yourself. And
Mm.
so
So good.
and
So good.
it's tough to admit. You're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
so you're saying I have that issue.
Right. Right. Wait, what?
Okay.
You mean
Yeah.
it's me? What? Yes. Yes
So
and yes. No, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. So, with that, what I want to know is what are some resources that you as a conscious male who was looking for partnership,
mhm.
what did you go do? Because I feel like there's lots of men out
Yeah.
there looking for partnership. They're like, I want to be a better version of me, but where do
Mhm.
I go find myself? Where do I go dig a little deeper? Where do I go heal some traumas? Like, where do they
Um,
go do that? That's not just your traditional, I go to a therapist.
yeah, I would say um, the part of the global plan has been to split us out of tribes, and so finding a tribe of all men on all women, and getting that polarity back, especially when you're in a relationship. It's something that I'm going back to is spending more time with my guy friends, maintaining a masculine polarity, so that I'm not as waffled or swayed by the feminine sort of you know feminine ways, right? And which can be beautiful and also a little bit of a tornado sometimes, and right, and they
Mm,
like. I think the feminine wants to feel that she can be like a storm that crashes upon the shore, and the shore
mm,
is there. And what I've learned, and I'm still learning, is that if you can just be the lighthouse and understand that some days it's going to be windy and some days it's going to be calm, and the more you can withstand the calm, withstand
the
the bad
the
weather,
storm. Yeah.
and weather the storm, the more safe the woman or the person playing the feminine role, if it's a gay couple, is going to feel safe. Both people will feel more safe if you're
Mm,
responding and not reacting. And the book that
yeah.
helped me the most with that, so I'd say, join your different groups, and maintain that polarity, but also and hear other people struggle, and understand that it's not just your relationship that's struggling. Because what we hear so much of, we see a lot of beauty, a lot of sex appeal, all in social, and we never see the protracted multi-day arguments that happen among couples, and we and we do not see we see the good things. We see all the good things in every area. In business, we see the success stories, and
Mm,
we rarely, if we hear about a failure, we don't understand the detail, we don't understand the context, we
yeah.
don't understand the back and forth, we don't understand the parts of ourselves. So NLP's helped a lot, because NLP has a whole branch that is very much around therapy and finding root cause charges in the nervous system, and just depatterning them so that they're there, you remember it. And this could be the most
Mm,
traumatic thing that ever happened to you. And in 20 minutes, it could be a memory that is there but doesn't affect you and doesn't cause you to do things. The
yeah.
book that I was going to mention is The Masculine in Relationship, that I'm sure women would really enjoy too. Um, it has a few core tenets in it, and it's all about, I would say, like, either the guy or the person holding the masculine pole in the relationship. If that person can do those things, I'm not saying it's easy, but it is the only book that I've ever read that made relationships seem rather simple if you
Mm,
follow that advice. And I've heard some of the smartest men that I know, they're also very conscious, under talk about this book. And I've read it twice now, and it's one of those things that honestly I wish I had time to reread every
mm,
quarter. I mean, it's
mm.
just, just reread, and know that at least they say, actually, John Gottman learned this recently, said that most relationships fail because of the man and the decisions he
Ooh.
makes.
Ooh.
When it's a couple that's all in, otherwise all
Mhm.
in together.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't help it if someone's just not committed,
Right.
right? Um, but it speaks to this, and this book would have the answers, and it's all about providing structure, so that an example of that is, hey honey, I know we're looking at like going to dinner, and I took all the choices in this new city we're in, and I've got three right here, and my suggestion is this one. And you're taking into account what her preferences are, and still offering her. And I would say 95% of the time she's going to be like, oh, that sounds great, or like, let's do one of this of the three, let's do that one.
Sure.
And that's a co-decision, but you simplified, and you provide structure,
Mhm.
and that feels safe, and that feels there's just, the feminine energy
Yeah.
is very dispersed, and masculine energy, if you maintain polarity, is very focused. And that, I mean, that I was a hunting guide at one point, and I kind of go back to that sort of thinking. And when I'm noticing I'm way pulled off of that, I'll go, how does like that, the masculine archetype, think in a good way, in a healthy way? And it is focused, sort of mission oriented. And so if you can do that, I think that's a big part of it. And then responding, and not instead of reacting, is
Mm.
85% of it, I think.
Yeah, that's life, right? That's life. That's a life lesson right there,
Yeah.
Barton. That's just life in general. Yeah, I hear that. I love what you just said because I'm thinking of it in my own context. And what I realized is until I met a man who was more focused than I am, that was the moment I went, "Oh, like
Hmm.
I can relax for a minute because this feels really good. I feel really held." And I
Hmm.
realized that that's the container, right? If I'm already a focused person, to
Yeah.
meet someone more focused than me means that they can hold that container for me. I'm not holding it for them. And I was like, ooh, I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
And it was also recognizing like, okay, I see where, maybe I've made some choices in the past that didn't honor that part for me of like understanding like there's a lot to hold and I'm willing to wait for the right person that can hold it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not going to be that all the time, right? There are going to be times where you, as a woman, have a lot more expertise in an area than your man. And
Mm,
so to be able to help him and temporarily switch roles is the dynamic nature of life, and it would be boring to be only one all the time, right? We wouldn't want. I
yeah.
don't think the soul came here to experience that. That wouldn't
Mm,
be a full spectrum life. That's my
yeah.
own,
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for that share. That was really good. What's that book again?
The masculine in
The
relationship.
masculine in relationship. Okay. I like it. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to read that one and recommend it to everyone that wants to date me.
Yeah, yeah,
There should
yeah.
be like a reading list. It's like
Right.
the English class reading list. It's like, oh, you want to date me? Here's your
Just a
reading list.
Google,
Come back
just
when
a
you're done.
Google Doc. It's really simple. So you
Would you like a manual on how I operate? Here you go.
comes with a type form that
That's
lets you know after that
right.
you did read and also
That's
comprehend
right.
the lessons. It's
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a
very easy.
quiz.
It's
There's a
it, it
quiz. You
is. I mean,
must
it is a requirement for the second date, but it's very, very easy.
you must score 90% or better to get to the next
Yeah.
stage.
Also gonna need your Colby score, credit
That's
score,
right.
and like,
And a
uh,
blood test and a credit report and a hair test,
definitely a
please.
hair test.
Definitely a hair
Also,
test.
um, yeah, I'm not
I
trying
love
to
it.
date anyone with magnesium or lithium
That's
deficiency.
right. Yeah, you must not have any sufficiencies. That's right. Insufficiencies. I love it. I love it. Barton, you've been stellar today. Thank you for joining us on Bold Brave for the live show. Thank you for coming on and giving us some more insight. And of course, it's so fun to talk about just all the things that round out life, like relationships. And y'all, I'm serious about upgraded formulas. If you have not tried, look, I'm going to give you guys the easiest thing to do, which is order the magnesium. Comes in a liquid, or you can get a pill form. For those of you that don't like pills, get the liquid. Just drop it in your water and drink it, and you are going to feel pretty much instantly different.
Yeah.
And whatever ails you, it's such a good one. It's a good quality magnesium. It's got a great absorption rate, and it's going to
Yeah.
really help you. So,
And it's going to
upgraded
help the
formulas.
cramps if you have the cramp, like leg cramps, PMS cramps, brain cramps, which is really what a
Wow.
migraine or a headache is.
Yeah.
And it's really not about the form; it's about our delivery system. Just a side note on that, you can learn more of that on the
Yes.
website, and that's on the
Yes,
bottle
and
too.
yes.
So
And if you
upgrade.
want to know more about the biohacks, you just follow Barton on his Instagram account, and you'll see lots of fun stories on there.
Yeah, you'll see me, walking around with the shirt off, even when it's not, considered appropriate. But I long let that
Thirst
go.
trap, Barton. Thirst trap.
Yeah, hey, good, bad, or not
Whatever works.
so.
That's right. I love
Good,
it.
bad,
I
or
love
ugly,
it.
you gotta do it. That's what health is about. And
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. Well, again, thank you, Barton. Appreciate you so much.
thank
Y'all,
you. This
that
was
is
fun.
today's extra content over here at the Mad Love Your Life show on YouTube. And with that, I'm wishing you mad love, that make a difference kind of love in your life today and every day.
So fun.
Okay, we are at 99%.